So, I had a question because it's like I was having a hard time remember. Um, so I remember meeting you at INDOC, but were you in the class with me with Lucy? Remember with Brizuela? I don't know if you remember Captain Brizuela, Lucy.
No,
Um,
I was in the class before you when it was
okay,
just me and
with
Chan.
Chan.
Yep.
Oh yeah, with Chan. Oh my God, I went to PJ school with Chan. That's a whole different story. So I'm not gonna. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So it's you and Chan, and then you didn't go. So you weren't in that class.
Right. So
That
what
was the
happened
next
is
one.
I ended up failing the final eval, the fin swim, by 2 seconds.
Uh huh.
And then so I re-evaled that following Saturday, and there's no way after doing the final eval of INDOC, failing by two
Hmm.
seconds, I'm not going to get any faster the very next day, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
smoked. I was like a
exactly.
minute and a half slow the following day. So what they did is that was kind of when the pipeline was changing, and so they said, okay, well, I'm sorry, the pipeline wasn't changing at that point. So the plan
No.
was send me to air traffic control school because they
Hmm.
wanted to keep me. They wanted me to graduate. I mean, the cadre there did. I mean, I could never ever complain about those guys because they bent over backwards for me. So they sent me to air traffic control school at Keesler in hopes that I
Hmm.
could just solely work on my speed. While I was at air traffic control school, that's when the pipeline changed. So from there, I ended up going back to Lackland in kind of like a casual status. And then we went to airborne, we went to survival, we went to all the other schools. And then except for pre-dive and except for dive school and free fall, then that's when AST started, or advanced skills
Yep.
training, when it was just working out of a single office in at the 2-3 STS. And
Yep.
so that's when we started going through pre-dive with Greg Herricks, Mike West, Joe Carpenter, Dan Cleek, and those guys. And then we went to dive school at Key West, finished that, then went to free fall school, finished that. And then,
Hmm.
I went to combat control school somewhere in there. I don't, it was in '01. I
Yeah.
went to combat control school, but yeah. So then finished up the rest of the pipeline. That's what, so I'm class 1 at AST, and
That's right.
yeah,
Because then I saw you again because you went to Pope right afterwards. You were at the 20. Was it the 21st,
21st.
22nd? Yeah, 21st. That's what it was because also I saw you there because Ish Viegas. It was me, him, and Nate Salamini. We got together and we were actually deployed to Afghanistan together. That was my very first. Um, was that my second deployment or first deployment? First deployment, but
That
I
was
was
probably
with
the
them.
first deployment because that
Yeah, that
was
was my first
actually, we
deployment.
we left in the fall of no,
Oh, two, oh two. Yes, that was my
yeah,
first deployment. Fall of oh
yep.
two. Yep.
And we were doing
Yeah,
CSAR because
and
I was doing, we were Iron Cross call sign.
yeah, what?
Iron Cross, that was
Yeah,
our
yeah.
call
So
sign.
yeah,
And so you were with
yeah,
Nate, Big Fat Sal.
yep. Big Sal. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember him, me, and actually we had the push-up competition, and so they had these little push-up bars, and then you had to like every time you did 100, you put like a little tick mark, and then just to pass time, you see like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, whatever. So that's 5 push-ups you've done. So I'll see some tick marks up there. And I go, oh, when did you throw in an extra 200? I was like, so
Hey, real
just
real quick, Ed, when can you take out the headphones or the ear pods? The sound
yeah.
just went really weird. So
Okay, here, let me just take it off.
yeah, that's all. And then we'll just roll like this.
All right, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right. So we've
Okay.
already been recording, so I'm not going back, but just so
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
knows,
yeah.
welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. We have Ed Ha. Do I call you doctor now?
No, I'm not officially a doctor. It's just a major, major because I'm still
Just a
active
major,
duty. Yeah,
anesthesiologist. Prior
yeah.
PJ, you're well on your way to being the same dude that the Navy SEAL that went to be a SEAL, then went to be a
No,
doctor, and
Johnny
now is an
Kim, there's no
astronaut. You're
way.
well on your
No
way.
way. No way. He graduated from Harvard Med School. Yeah, he's way above, So,
Well,
yep.
dude, I appreciate you joining us, man. It's great seeing you. The last time I saw you, I think, was actually at a Spartan race randomly We just ran
Yep.
into each other at a Spartan race here in Las Vegas, but we were kind of already alluding to it. You were going through INDOC in the
Hmm.
class right after mine, and
Hmm.
man, uh, it's been a long time. So tell us
Yep.
about your kind of journey in terms of how did you always know you wanted to be a PJ?
No, so let's let like I got to rewind this back, and I wish Aaron was here because he would know. I think a lot of the people, but and when I mention these names, a lot of people will know. But it's just a crazy story. So it started off where I went to Marine Corps boot camp right after graduating from high school, but I was a reservist. So I graduated high school, went to Marine Corps boot camp, and I was a Marine, and I was a 0311 grunt, but I was a reservist. I did that for a while, and then so I'm going to tell you a backstory on how it was. So. Obviously, during that time frame, do you remember Tan Sirasak? So I've known
Yeah.
him. Yeah, I've known him since junior high school. So we went to junior high school together, high school together. We played on the same water polo team, varsity water polo team, and swim team. We made it to our league championships. We were really good at that. We both went in the Marines together. We just went in different boot camp times. So we both went in the Marines. I went reserve. He went active duty. Um, Now, I don't know if you know, he's retired now, but Chief Master Sergeant Doug Isaacs,
Yep.
he was the command chief at the 920th. He just recently retired a few years ago. So he he went to a rival high school. So there was literally 1 mile down the road. Way it is growing up in Southern California, it's just a big, humongous metropolitan city. So you live on this side of the road, you go, this side of the street, you go to this high school, this side you go to that high school, but the schools are like right close to each other. So Doug was an acquaintance throughout high school. It wasn't until I got back from the Marine Corps boot camp, him and I just became close, hung out every single day and everything else. And then he saw, wow, like you being a Marine, having all that discipline, that seems pretty cool. He was going to go to the recruiter's office to talk to a Marine Corps recruiter. The Air Force recruiter snatched him up, and next thing you know, he's like shipping off within a couple days to be an SP, and he's going to Korea. So
Just an SP, right? Like,
just an SP, yep. And then he goes to Korea, and then so him and I still talked. I remember visiting him in Dias, and when he was an SB, and met with Tina, which is his wife. But at the same time, there I met for the first time who I don't know if he's still active duty, but Jamie Clark, Chief Jamie Clark.
no, he's not.
So
He's retired now.
he's retired. Yeah, that's the first time I met him. He was also an SB. So little kind of like innuendos there. Then I got done with the Marine Corps, and then I kept in touch with Doug, and then Doug called me up one day and said, "Hey, I'm at Halo School right now. It was Memorial Day weekend, just like it is now. Can I come stay with you? And so I could see everyone, back in Southern California because that's where I grew up." I go, "Sure." So we met up, and then he stayed at my place. I'm like, "What are you doing at Halo School?" And because he was at Yuma, Arizona, I said, "What are you doing at Halo School?" He goes, "Oh, I'm not doing the SP thing anymore. I'm doing this new thing called pararescue." I had no clue. Being a Marine Corps, guy, it's just like you're brainwashed to think that it's called the chair
It's
force.
only the Marines. That's it.
And remember, this is in the 90s, so there wasn't like YouTube. There was no, their internet was really slow. It was AOL dial up. There's no way you could research what things were. So he had to explain it to me. And then we met up with Tan. So it was Doug, me, and Tan. We met up at Dave and Buster's. He was telling me about pararescue. So we were kind of interested in it, but I was like, I had a bad taste of my mouth from the Marines. Just didn't like the grunt work. So I was like, I didn't know if I would ever go back into the military again. He told me, "Hey, I need you to come out to my graduation from PJ school." Didn't know what it was, so I flew out there, came to his graduation. And then when I walked through the halls, saw the plaques, saw the stuff they did, they did a little demonstration for graduation, everything else. I'm just like, you see the teamwork, you see the hoo-yahs and all that other stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, I got to be part of this. And then what was even crazier was when I saw them like blaster boots, don their berets. I'm like, I need to do
That
this.
was it.
Like this, yeah, this is it, right? And the whole mission statement, because it's different for, I don't know what it is for CCT, but for me, it's like that others may live, risking your life to save another. Like it was just constantly said that during the graduation, like that others may live, that others may live, risking your life for saying for risking your life to save another, kind of like that, right? To me, that was my calling because I was trying to become like a firefighter. I wanted to do something with where it is some sort of rescue. I'm helping others. And that's where, when I saw this, I go, this is the job for me. Right. So, another crazy story, his graduation class, right,
had Todd Popovic in it, Jamie Clark, Mike Herrera, all guys who made Chiefs, right? Like that was his graduation class. He at that time it was like the biggest graduation class for a pararescue. It was like 21 graduates, right, or something like that.
I was
At
just at a
that
graduation just last month. It was 30 or 31.
Yeah, yeah. Now it was, but at that time it was the biggest graduation class ever for pararescue, right? So he had like some legends in that class, right? That class too was also why I wanted to be part of it. Was everyone's in their dress blues or their blues, right? They're ready for graduation. We walk into the O Club. Next thing I know, I'm standing with Doug and his wife because we're walking together because I was staying at his place, and we walk together, and everyone in blues is just wrestling each other, just a melee, right? Coming from the Marine Corps, when you wear your dress blues, like you're like stiff. You do not want to do anything to ruin it. You know, the white hat, everything else. You just don't want to get any kind of smudges. It didn't matter. People in blues just
Charlie
doing
must have
this.
been involved.
Yep. It was a big melee. There was a grand piano. It cracked one of the legs of the grand piano. The piano fell down. It was just at least 15, 20 people in blues just tackling each other, right? And I'm like, what the heck is going on? What is this, right? Like, who does this in their blues, right? And then Doug just says, oh, it's Charlie. I was like, what's Charlie, right? So that was my first experience of Charlie without even being PJ yet. And it's like, why are people going crazy over this doll, you know? And then later on you find out it's like you have to be in the in the career field to know the meaning of it and the stories that goes on beyond it of just trying to get Charlie, right? And then I know that Ivan Ruiz talked about this. Chief Ivan Ruiz, he talked about he wanted to make a book of just everyone's Charlie stories because everyone could tell you a Charlie story and they're all crazy on how they got Charlie, and
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you were at the 23rd when Moody got Charlie. This is like a little sideway, but this whole thing, Bill Posh was involved. It was like a bunch of people involved trying to get Charlie, and they got it from the 23rd, and that was a crazy story. But it's like there's always a crazy story on how to get Charlie.
Well, there is because and it's yeah, you could say
I
it's
don't know if
dumb.
TCP has something like that.
We don't have anything like that, no. But it's a cool kind of thing that traditional and it's full on theft. Yeah, I mean,
Yep,
people will
yep,
break into houses, break into facilities, break into
yep,
military facilities,
yep,
um, to and I'm talking, hey, we just happen to be. It could be extravagant, like hey,
yeah,
we're doing a night training mission with CV-22s kind of thing. I'm gonna have them land here. We're no kidding, running over, jumping the fence, breaking into this. We've got them on the
yeah,
ground for 5 minutes, running, going hopping on a CV-22, and it just happens to take off to another location. Now the CV-22 crew has no idea what's going on, but
yeah,
the guys are stealing it, and then next thing you know, it's in Japan.
yep,
You're like, what?
exactly, yeah,
You're like,
yep,
what happened? And it's
yep,
just a kind of wild thing with Charlie and the history of it, and I mean Garcia. This was
yep.
like,
I was there at Ivan's at Ruiz's retirement ceremony,
yeah,
and I want to know what the ANS students thought when I saw them all sitting. They're like sitting like this, and there's a whole crowd of them just sitting off to the side, not saying a word, all like
yep,
that, right? And then and after that, once he handed over Charlie, it was just a big old melee of people trying to go grab him. And I wonder if they understand how that's just significant. That's just crazy. Because I'm watching and I go, here we go again. Here we go,
yep.
here we go.
You knew it was gonna happen.
It was going to happen. I wish I could record it just so I could show people. Like I try to explain it to my daughter, and she's like, "Why did you guys go so crazy over this doll?" And it's just like, you get, I mean, you just can't
Because we're a
explain
bunch
it.
of kids.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's just a tradition,
But I mean, Garcia broke I'm pretty sure he broke his arm, or it was fractured that event.
Oh
Like he
yeah.
just got it. I mean, I don't want to say he got his ass beat, but because I didn't see it, but I know that
Mhm.
like his arm got crushed and ended up getting fractured.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't remember
like
if he got fractured or
the
not. Yeah, because
dudes
I
don't.
remember seeing
Well,
afterwards.
I don't know if he got X-rays, but I know that he came up and it was like whatever bone that is in there,
Yeah.
and it was. I mean, and he couldn't really move, and he's like, dude, I think I broke it.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember seeing after because he came back. He was at the 58th. So when he came back, I texted him. I go, "Hey, I really want to get a picture with Charlie. Like, I want to have my kids take a picture with Charlie. Since you have it, it's in Vegas. And I did it. I did get pictures with them and had my kids hold them because I've told stories to my kids all the time about Charlie. So they finally, this is it. And
Yeah.
like, the kids
You
are so
guys do
unimpressed.
all this stuff over this?
He's so ugly. I go, I know, but I mean, it's like, but, uh, but anyway, so back to the story of like, I saw that graduation, saw them go over Charlie, and I was like, I want to be part of this group. This group that will, in their blues, will tackle Charlie. And this group will, like, that just seems so close knit. And that's the reason why I was like, I went back from that graduation. I called up Tan and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing pararescue. If I do it, will you do it?" He's like, "Heck yeah, let's do this." And so we went to this trial and tribulation of trying to do it. Doug was stationed at the 23rd. Doug Isaacs was stationed at the 23rd. So then he called. He brought us, like, he let me borrow his rocket fins and everything else. And so remember, he said that the hardest part of INDOC at that time, remember, it was a 10 weeks INDOC, right? But your final eval is eight weeks, and he already knew what the grad standards were. So he told us what the grad standards were, and he made us go through them all. And we found out what the grad standards were, and we basically trained, and we went to INDOC before, with knowing that we could do all the grad standards. So that way, when we went there, it's like we just have to go through the hell because we could already do the grad standards prior to even going to INDOC. That was our mentality, right? The only thing both him and I, Tan and I, could not do was complete the run. Like, we just weren't fast
It's
runners.
fast.
Yes. At that time, it was all 7-minute miles,
It was
So it's like,
7 minutes and below.
yep. So it's 21:01, you failed for a 3-mile run, 28:02, you failed, right? Like, there's no leeway for a 4-mile run, right? So you failed, and you're done. So so the running part we didn't have down. We could barely make a mile and a half in under 10. At that time, the standard was 10:30 for the pass test, and I'm making it like at 10:25. So
Close.
yeah, yep, it's close. And now they changed it because they realized, hey, in order to pass the 3-mile run and run better, you got to run faster than a 10:30, or else you're never going to make it. So but in the WaterCon, we didn't have BDUs because we were both out in the Marine Corps at that time. So we got long sleeve flannel shirts and jeans to simulate Black Thursdays, right? So we got in the water and we showed Doug that we did a 50-meter underwater with, flannel shirt, jeans, and we just did a 50-meter underwater. And he just says, you guys got WaterCon. Like, I'll show you all the techniques, how to do ditch and don, how to tie your knots, whatever, right? How to do your, mask and snorkel recovery and all that stuff. I'll teach you the techniques, but you guys have WaterCon, and then the only thing that we didn't have was he did like mild harassment buddy breathing. And the first time we've ever done that. And the first time we're just like, we're both of us coming up because we're just not used to that, right? Taking away breaths and everything else. And he's like, that's just mild. I was like, holy cow. And then eventually when he came and showed us everything, we were able to he showed us a little bit of taste of what full harassment's like. But we didn't have any YouTubes. We didn't have any like Once Ready podcasts. We didn't have anything else other than him coming for those 3 days, kind of worked us out, showed us exactly what we need to do, and he left. And then there's no texting, so me phone calling, asking him questions, stuff like that. I think there was a blog called specialtactics.com. I think that was like the only blog or thing at that time that you could use as a reference. We went to the library, we checked out books. The only thing that had anything pararescue related was the book called The Perfect Storm, That Others May Live, written by the New York Guard about the perfect storm.
Yep.
Then
I think Black Hawk Down was out there. Yeah.
Yep. Those are the only 3 books with anything with pararescue involved, and we read them all, and that was it. So yeah, and then we finally got a recruiter to take us in. We went to INDOC, and we went straight to INDOC without going to Air Force Basic. And the first day there, I was rudely awakened, and with all the push-ups and the smoke sessions, right? I literally called Doug that day. He just started laughing. He's just laughing. He's like, "Oh man, get used to it. That's just day 1." But I remember meeting you there, and that's the thing that was interesting about that INDOC class, because that had like Arthur Lucero, it had like Captain Brizuela, all these guys that Jack Earnshaw, these guys that graduated that class. At that time, remember, it was CCT and it was it was pararescue, and they had that Hell Week, and no, I made it through Hell Week. I made it to like week 5. So, and Hell Week was usually week 3. And there's parts of Hell Week I don't remember. How did I get through it? I was so sleep deprived and everything else. But remember, at that time, when you pass Hell Week and you fail later and you get reclassed and recycled and you go again, you don't have to go through Hell Week again if you get set back and you do it the next class. I don't know if that was the same rules with you guys, but for us was you don't have to go through Hell Week twice. If you made it through Hell Week and then you got set back later, you don't have to go through Hell Week again.
I did like 2.5.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Well,
So,
yeah, because I was on 3 INDOC teams, right? So the
okay.
first one, I guess really truly I only did 2, but because I did a portion of the first one before, if I remember right, I think I got hurt, and then the second one I was almost through, and then I had cellulitis in my right leg. Like I only had 24 more hours left, but I had already been sucking it up in my leg. And that was one of the days that we had gone to the reservoir.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I'm like, and I had never had an infection like that before. And I'm like hot to the touch. It's sore. And I had, golly, what was the instructor's name? McClanahan?
Yeah. McClanahan. Yep. Marshall.
Yeah. And he was a PJ, right? If I remember right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Marshall McClanahan.
I think I had him come by and check out my leg, and he felt it. And he's like, how's that feeling? I'm like, it really hurts. He's like, all right, we're pulling you. And I'm like I pleaded with him, like, please don't. I know that I'm like 24 to 36 hours away from this. He's like, dude, you're done. And then we got to the hospital, and it turns out it was so bad that like if I had waited another 24 to 36 hours, like I would have had some serious muscle loss and like just done, because I was in the hospital for quite a while.
Wow. That sucks because you were literally almost done with Hell Week, but you didn't finish completing it,
Yeah.
And so that doesn't count towards the next time you go through INDOC.
Nope.
You still
So
got
I ended up having to do it again for the 3rd time. And then that's when I failed the final eval by 2 seconds on the fin swim.
But yeah, so so I made it through Hell Week, but I lost 15 pounds during Hell Week. I just didn't eat.
Yeah.
Right. I lost all those calories and I didn't eat because they give you, I didn't realize you could ask for more MREs, but they only give you 6 MREs the day of, right? And so you unpacking them, zipping them up, and just, I planned my meals. Okay, well, if they only give me 6 MREs and I got 4 or 5 days, like the peanut butter is my breakfast and the crackers is my lunch. You're like literally like rationing it out when you put in your ruck, like this is my meal for this. I didn't realize that you could actually ask for more MREs if you're hungry, but none of us knew that. Yeah, so
like dude, that's news to me.
Yeah, because afterwards, I remember one of them goes, "Hey, someone asked the sergeants, we're out of food, sir. Is anyone getting more food? Oh, you guys need more food? Sure, here you go." I'm like, we could have asked for more food this entire time. I know. I was like, here I am suffering. Yeah, I ended up losing 15 pounds. And then because of that massive weight loss, I could not recover. My body was just destroyed. And that's why I kept reading the next 2 weeks. And then I was done, But the second class we went through, they pulled 4 of us aside that made it through Hell Week, right? And I remember because at the time, our commandant is Master Sergeant Kilbride, which, everyone knows him as Mr. Kilbride when you talk to him later. No one ever knew him as Master Sergeant Kilbride other than like you and me in that era, right? So he pulls aside, and it was myself, Tan Sirasak, Copeland, who I believe I forgot his first name, but, tall, skinny redhead with glasses. He ended up becoming CCT. Copeland.
Jason, if I remember right.
Yep, Jason Copeland. And then Crow, right? And what's Crow's first name? Pat Crow. Yep, Pat Crow, right? Pat Crow. So all 4 of us made it through Hell Week, the class with like Lucero and, Brizuela and all them. And so he pulls us aside, and we're like, cool, we don't have to go through Hell Week again because they're blowing the horns and everyone's going crazy because Hell Week for the next class started. Also remember that next class, I think they pulled you out because Bubby Brister, at that time, Lieutenant Bubby Brister, he was supposed to be our stow in charge of our class. Him, there's 3 other people, and I thought you were in that class that was supposed to start. All of a sudden, after the first day we took the pass test, they told all the CCT guys, get out. you guys are going somewhere else.
Yep.
We became the very first official PJ class. So I was in the last PJ CCT class, made it to like week 5, and then week 4, week 5. Yeah, week 5, and then I was in the very first all PJ INDOC. So then when the sirens are going off, I'm thinking Hell Week is starting. They didn't say anything about like they're changing it up or anything else. But they pulled our foliage aside, and I remember to this day Kilbride saying, "Gentlemen, we know that you passed Hell Week in the last class, but this team needs you, so you're going to join them." Because at first we pulled us to the side, we're sitting in the room, we're sitting there for like 15 minutes. We're thinking, woohoo, we don't have to do a Hell Week. We get to watch them do Hell Week, and they're going to suffer and everything else. And then he tells us, go join your team, right? My heart just sank. I have to do this again. And I passed the first time, right? I have to do this again. So the entire time, during that time, I'm just the worst attitude. This is bullshit, right? Just the whole time. But that motivated me to even push harder.
What a test, though, to go from you've already finished something to I don't have to do it, I'm good, to all of a sudden like, hey dude, you're going in.
Yep, you're going in and you're doing it. Yep.
Did anybody call it like, nah, I ain't doing that again?
No, all 4 of us just were pissed off, and the whole time we're just, I think the anger that we had to do it again motivated us to be just I ran faster than I ever ran. I swam harder than I ever swam. I was doing underwires, and I remember just doing the underwires, and they're doing the Black Thursday, and they're grip, they're trying to pull on you, tug on you. I was like, fuck this shit. I do this thing again. Got this BS, right? Never came up or whatever. I was just so angry the entire time, right? That I guess that anger made me just go through it even harder, right? Because the whole time, just mad, going through the O course or whatever, the dirty name, doing everything else, just mad, right? Then all of a sudden, 36 hours goes by after the first day, and they're like, all right, gentlemen, go to sleep. Go back to your dorms. And that was the first time of extended training day. So that was the reason why they made us go through it again, because they knew we weren't going to go through a whole week. We were the first class to go through ETD, or extended training day, So I was actually, the next morning, I was like this has got to be a joke. No, they're messing with us. They're playing mind games with us. No, it was the first ETD. So went through the very last Hell Week and then very first ETD. And then, we later on graduated, but we lost Copeland and Crow, but then they both went into CCT from what I recall.
Yeah, because I ended up being roommates with Copeland.
Yeah.
In North Carolina, for I don't know, 6 months or whatever. So yeah, that's nuts, man. Because it goes to one of those things where, and I know you experienced this because they did this a lot at INDOC. Was the we're gonna go. You don't know. Almost all the runs except for evals were unknown distance runs. We were just going out for a run, and you knew when we kind of hit. You had an idea anyway. You didn't know when we'd hit.
Where you're going with this. Yep.
Yeah, and they come back, and you're like, all right, man, all right, bringing it in strong, nice and good, and they run right past the INDOC building, and you're just like,
and they just keep on going. But psychologically, it messes you up. So after they did that the first time, I would not hold my breath. I would just be keep mentally telling myself, they're going to keep going. They're going to keep going until they say, all right, line up in a circle. And then you knew you could relax, right? When you do the whole circle stretch thing. But yeah, when they do this whole run and they run past INDOC and they keep on going again, you're thinking that you're ending. And you know who was big guy was at that time, Sergeant Ron Mann. He was our proctor for our second class. He would do that to us all the time. And you talk about psychological games. He did it twice. We come through. Okay, we're gonna be done this time. Nope, keeps on running again. I'm like, oh my god, right?
Ron's the same dude. I remember this where we did, because the pool sessions were 4 hours. You knew that. You knew that you'd all the other stuff was in the morning. Track work, grass and gorillas, all that kind of stuff. But then in the afternoon, after lunch, was whatever it was, 12 to 3, or maybe it was 1 to whatever it was, but it was 4 hours. So we did a 4-hour pool session, and this came out of nowhere. We had no idea that it was coming. We had us police up our gear, we're going home. and the bus isn't there. And he's like, all right, get your stuff out, get in the water, underwaters. And it was like a whole nother 4-hour pool session on top of it. And it was like, oh, and it's, you can physically do it. It's just all
Yes.
mental at that point.
Yeah. And that's where you see a lot of people just quit. That's
Yeah.
where I see in the beginning, you see people like they mentally just only push themselves to this and they have like no more. And they think that they can't do more. And that's where it really messes it separates, I'm going to say men from the boys. It does separate from the people who could just keep pushing themselves when there's no end versus the people who are like set themselves in that expectation of that's the end. And they're like, they can't reset their mind, keep going again, you know?
Yeah.
And it does do a good job of testing that. It does your will. And I don't know if ANS does that as much.
They do. They for sure do.
Okay.
So, I don't know how much you've paid attention to the current pipeline and now the future pipeline that's going to be coming, but the career fields had a bit of consternation about, this new pipeline, with special warfare candidate course and assessment and selection and how we were kind of doing this open vector kind of thing. It was good, right? It was a smarter way of doing it. Can we do things better? Sure. Well, you can always do things better. But people thought like, okay, well, we're making it easy and that kind of stuff. So what the instructors did, to their credit, and the leadership there said, okay, all of you chiefs, all of you crows, all of you stows, whoever's interested, whoever wants and has the time, come on out here, hang out with us for a week during an ANS and see. And that way you can see we are maintaining the same standard. So I went out there and joined it. And I remember being there at a pool session, just kind of watching from the deck and saying, holy cow, I am so glad I'm not in that water. Because even though what they were doing was not insane, you could tell that it was terrible. And it was like a 3-minute EMOM or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Where they had weight belts on and they had fins and masks. They touched the gunnel. This is the very start. They touched the gunnel and then they have to tread, and they had to tread for, I don't know, whatever it was, 1 minute. And then they'd say travel. So they'd have to travel the width of the pool and then back. If they reached the edge of the pool by the time the next one started, they could hold on to the gunnel and then get off again and do their thing. If they were slow swimming, they didn't get a chance to touch the gunnel. They would just have to start treading water right there. People were dropping like it was nuts. I mean, just passing out, going down to the bottom, and they were pulling people out constantly. I'm like, dude, that's awful. And then following, waking up meeting them at 2 a.m. and all that kind of stuff to do stuff for, the loud wake ups and everything. The instructors there, to their credit, were doing a really good job, and they still are.
Yeah.
Changes happen though.
I was just told that a lot of times whenever I go see and talk to them is just they're handcuffed to a certain things they're allowed to do and not do because of like quote unquote hazing now, like abuse or whatever, right? And so there's ways around it, and there's, like you could, instead of just doing this, you just change it and make it into like a more formal thing or whatever. But I don't know. I just felt like sometimes it's the psychological abuse that you take and it builds that teamwork up.
Yeah.
Because your memories as a team is, do you remember when Sergeant so-and-so effed with us and did this and made us do this, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what builds that team because, I mean, like even like the late Bill Posh, him and I always will, I mean, anyone who's around it, like around that time frame, like there's this famous story and he's the one that screamed, weight belt swim in his high-pitched voice. and then I could just say that, and anyone who was there for that pool session will know exactly what we're talking about, where they just punished us because we did some, diabolical things during the Thanksgiving break, and then they said, well, instead of Black Thursday, we're doing it on Monday for you guys messing up and doing all the crazy things you did over the weekend, and it was like a punishment session. But we all remember that session because of the psychological games they play or stuff like that, or, you could actually complain it's hazing, or you could complain that it's abuse. But at that time, we're just like, we'll do whatever it took to pass and make it and become PA, even if it means enduring all that,
Yeah. Well,
So
so you're right. We can't use the word hazing. We can't use the word, abuse or anything like that, because it wasn't. It was a way to assess and select you, even though INDOC was called INDOC and ANS is
yeah,
called ANS. INDOC was very planned out. It was very scheduled. So when I talked about the extra pool session or the runs to go by, that
yeah,
was planned. And
yep,
us from a student or a cone perspective, we didn't see that part of it. But when you talk to Ivan and some of the instructors and Ross Kilbride and stuff like that, and you talk to them, it was a very detailed and well laid out plan of what was going to happen that day. Now, you obviously had and have the punishment sessions to just go, okay, well, we're going to train you because you messed up. You missed the timeline. You didn't pay attention to detail. You didn't mark your gear appropriately. So now you're going
mhm,
to pay because attention to
yeah,
detail matters. Those
yeah,
were not planned out because, believe me, we messed up on our own. We didn't need
yeah,
extra
sure,
straight. We did
yeah,
that to ourselves. But
yep,
everything was planned out. And I think that was that was at least my critique. And I think a lot of the critiques about the current pipeline was just everything was teamwork related there
mhm,
at INDOC. And now, at least in an ANS perspective, it's individual based. You're not a name, you're a number. You're not supposed to help each other. You're not supposed to support each other. And it kind of, in my opinion, just kind of lost that magic, right? Of,
yeah,
man, when your buddy's down, just like talking about the weight belt thing, right?
yeah,
We did things to whenever we could see one of our friends hurting,
yep,
like just I
yeah,
mean, just you could tell he was on the struggle bus up here, or he was struggling with grass and gorilla drills. You would do something funny to help support them. So maybe you would draw attention to yourself to ease the pain and suffering on him. I mean, I remember with Chris Trisco, he knew that I was hurting
yeah,
in the
uh-huh,
pool. And when you're doing crossovers, he would we would meet each other at the bottom and just
yep,
and pull
yep,
each other and we'd slingshot each other across
yep,
because he knew that I was hurting. Now it probably helped him too, right?
yeah,
But it definitely helped me. And then we connected about it. And it's just like, man, you saw I was hurting
yeah,
and you helped me out. So, next time I'm gonna be the one to jump out of that grenade and make an ass out of myself while we're doing flutter creep. Yeah, Sergeant,
yeah,
just can't smoke me. Oh yeah. Well,
yeah,
now I'm getting focused on. And now
yeah.
they can kind of take a breather in some
No,
regards.
it's like, but the thing is, like, how do you quantify that? That's the thing, is like, you only quantify that when you make the team go through pain together, and it has to be like the psychological pain where they don't know that it's training, right? And I just feel like that was the thing that ANS was missing, that when I went and saw it. Like, the training part, the physical demand of it, it's just as tough, right? Like, as far as like what they do and what the requirements they have to do with the finning and the egg beatering and all that stuff and the rucking, all that stuff. It's just as tough. I just feel like that added psychological stress where, like, okay, how do you get around this situation? It's all individual. Like you said, I guess it's all individual. I feel like that teamwork aspect of it, that team building, a lot of it's personality based too. Like, just knowing that, hey, every team's going to be different because you have different personalities. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, think about, my class had myself and Tan Sears, like two Asian guys, full blown Asian guys, and then you had, well, now he's going to retire, but you have Anthony Cervantes, who's chief out at the Reserve Unit at DM, and then Luis Garcia, who's the
Yep.
chief out at 58th right now. So we joke around, right? So, like I said, the military is the only way where you could be racist. We used to call them the Mexicans, right? And so we say, we had two Asian guys, two Hispanic guys, right? And then the rest were white, and it was always just be this thing where just our dynamic alone will make jokes about, like, oh, you should be good at swimming, you should be good at running, because those jokes about
Yeah.
immigration,
Yeah.
running across all that stuff. Oh, you should be good at swimming, you swam across the Pacific just to get here, or like. So it's
But
like,
so,
those jokes, and it just builds that team unity. But
yeah.
obviously now you're on a stage where you can't say that, it's offensive, it's not PC, like, you have to watch PCQs. I'm offended, or I don't know if that still applies to this day, or people just still understand that this is a job where you don't need to do that. I just feel like we're in a world today where that's offensive. That's, you can't say those things. You're not allowed to say those things. But I
I
remember the
think
instructors take those things.
inside the team room, you're still safe, right?
Yeah.
That's and people know that, and people expect it, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't want it any other way. And maybe I'm diming out the team rooms, and guess what? If you're not on team, or you're not cool or invited in, like, you don't belong there anyway. So get out.
Yeah.
But it is a different time for sure. I'd like to think that tide is changing, and people are kind of fed up with all the PC political correctness stuff. Like, because I've seen a lot of kickback on it, and it's wild for me to think of, because you nailed it. Your team had, to use your words,
Yeah,
two full-blown Asians.
It was a really diverse team,
Yeah.
But even the instructors played on it. They're like, "Oh, look, here comes the Asian connection," right? And they just call Canada the
I
Asian
remember
connection.
that.
Yeah, they call us the Asian connection all the time. And even the instructors played on it. And we would just laugh. And it was like those jokes that you hear them say, right? It's like those things that you will still remember to this time, like
Yeah.
just the jokes they'll say, or little tiny things that, they're saying it out of fun, but it's just funny when they say it, and now it'll be looked at as racist jokes, and I feel like the instructors don't have that leeway as much. I'm assuming they're more handcuffed because they have to follow rules and protocol because it's a different time,
They do, and part of it is, and man, I hope that somebody in leadership roles sees this and hears this, and
yeah,
emails me and tells me how inappropriate I am and that kind of stuff. But like, I'm not saying that you have to do what we do, or have to come from the community that we do to lead us. That is a ridiculous statement, because you have plenty of Air Force leaders and DoD leaders that are not soft. They're not operators that lead, and they're fantastic leaders. But what I'm saying is, when you start to criticize the way that we assess, select, and then train, and what we know what needs to happen and what needs to be done, because we have done the job, and we've been in those situations that are scary, dire. You may not make it out alive. You aren't going to make it out alive, but somebody's going to make it out alive, kind of thing. And so we know what needs to happen, which is why we talk the way we do, we act the way we do, we try and assess and select the way that we want to, in the way that we believe needs to happen, right? So, I can appreciate you wanting to get in our chili, but I'm sorry, you don't understand why we know that we need to have this to make sure we are selecting the correct people and ensuring that people are trained. Because can you imagine training people to the best of your ability, and then they go on a deployment and they see some wild stuff, and either one, the terrible part is they don't come back, but two, they come back and go, man, I sure wish I had done X, Y, and Z in training. You remember when we asked you to do X, Y, and Z in training, and you said no because it was pointless? Like, I mean, come at me then, Air Force leadership.
Well, it's that old saying. I've seen this quote famously, and it's in it's either probably in all the team rooms, or it's in all like gravestones or whatever, and it says like, for those who don't understand, no explanation is possible, and it's for those who do understand, no explanation is needed. And and it's like completely what describes like the special ops community. Like, if you're not in it, that's the whole Charlie thing, right? I wasn't in it, so I didn't understand, or like, when like we're celebrating Memorial Day, and then people are just like, why are you sad? Like, you just don't, like, unless you're in it, it. Like, you don't have to say a word, and I will understand exactly what you're going through, right? But at the same time, it's like, I don't need to say anything. Like, I don't need to explain myself to people who already know, but you can't explain it to people who don't know. And that's the same thing with the selection in INDOC, is that, I mean, unless they went through INDOC themselves, they wouldn't understand like why we do what we do, But I mean, give them credit. We try to explain it to them as much as we can, now I'm on the officer side. I kind of see things from their perspective as well, like, because they always have to think big picture wise, and a lot of their stuff comes from, policy from top, because the top says, I want this, make it happen, and it's kind of like there's no room for error. So then they have to bring it down, and give orders and say, hey, this has to happen, and then we only, from like your perspective or the people that are training, like, why are we doing this or whatever, but it's because of something that came from way above their pay grade, right?
Yeah.
Of why they want you to do this way now, and so,
Well,
there's always different agendas and everything else involved,
yeah, you nailed it. I mean, we get, so apart from Air Force Special Warfare, like we get the same thing at the weapons school where I am. I know that we've done several things here that
Mhm.
their MAGCOM did not want us to do. They straight
Yeah.
up said no. And I don't know, maybe I'm self-incriminating here, but we did it anyway.
Yeah.
We were the risk of failure, the risk of getting called out on it, getting in trouble was worth
Mhm.
it, because we know and we knew that it needed to be done to be proven,
Mhm.
that proven capability, so that we could, have the rest of the force and the rest of the combat air force, the rest of the mobility force, the rest of the bomber air force trained to it and realize this is a viable tactic. It can be done safely and it can be done effectively. We've broken that. Now everybody go do. Like, I can think of 3 things that we've done in the last year and a half that's like, all right, this is awesome, and we need to proliferate this to the rest of the Air Force. And
Yeah.
that's part of it, is being willing to say, no, dude, I got it. This is your direction, but I still know what needs to be done, and we're gonna take risk on it, right? Like, the
Yeah.
commanders own the risk for sure, but it wasn't an unnecessary risk. It wasn't, unmitigated risk.
Yeah.
It was, we know that needs to be done. We've done all the checks and balances. We know where everything needs to be. We've hit the appropriate, milestones, and we're going to do it.
Well,
You
a
know?
good commander will know his team, right? And trust his team. And it's like, you know what? You guys have proven me right. So go ahead, and hey, I'll back you up, And so it's like, I felt like as when I was enlisted, you could tell some of these guys who are like that, right? Like, I knew right away when from first meeting him, just the way he talked. I don't know how he was in reality, but just from my perspective, like Bubby Brister, right? At
Yeah.
that time, Lieutenant Brister, right? You could just tell he will bat for his guys, right? And
Every day.
so, yep. So I could just tell he would bat for his guys. Even at INDOC, he would bat for his guys. So for me, he's someone that I would follow and listen to. But also at the same time, if you brought that up to someone like him, he'll just be like, I trust you and go ahead and get it done. Um, Another person that was like that with me was, well, at the time was Lieutenant Taylor. I think he's Colonel Taylor now.
Rob Taylor.
Rob Taylor, So he was like that with me when we were, his very first, assignment. He needed a lot of shaping around it, as the senior NCOs would say, like all thrust, no vector, right? And so
All thrust of. That's a
that was the
great
sign
way to
that
describe Rob Taylor.
Yep, yep. That was his little sign above his door in his office. They got him a big old plaque that said "All thrust, no vector," because he just want, let's get it done, done, done. And then it was up to the senior NCOs to kind of like, all right, we love your enthusiasm. Let's direct you to the
Yeah.
let's point it to this direction a little bit. Like give some direction to it. So, but still, he would. I can name numerous stories where he would bat for his guys. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he would protect his guys. So um, I was even in a situation where he went above and beyond to protect me. And I was in a bad situation. He got me out of there really quick, so I wouldn't get in trouble. So it's like, it's like those kind of leaders that you see. I know that they will trust down. It's the ones that don't want to listen, I guess, and just say, hey, you want to go this way, and I don't know if that's how it is with where you're at right now, where you just have to, we're going to do it anyway kind of thing, or if it's something that you have leadership that like will back you up. All right, I'll back you up.
Yeah.
And a good leader still, if you did it without their knowledge, they won't hammer you. They'll just be like, if the higher ups come down to them, you go, no, it was my decision. A
Yeah.
good leader will just take it for their airmen. So
It depends
and then,
on. Yes, I agree. I think it depends, and it's all about giving plausible deniability to leadership too.
yeah,
There's part of that too. Is like,
yeah,
oh, wait a minute, you knew that these guys were doing that? Well, I didn't know. you know.
Yeah.
But then there's also like when you were asked from that commander or that chief and you're like, did you do this? Or like, then you just got to own it. You just got to be like, yeah, I
Yep.
did. And here's why. And, you know,
Yep.
they'll probably be like, God, you know, all right, I got to answer the man on this one. But that's okay because most, you know,
Yep.
Matt Allen was the same way. I'm sure you probably remember him from that deployment. Matt Allen's the same way. Go to bat
Mhm.
for you every single time. Sal, right? Fat Sal
Yep.
as an NCO, Ish as an
Yeah.
NCO. All
Yeah.
those dudes, you know, they knew the assignment and
Yeah.
would always go to bat for their folks, even if their dudes were in the wrong. Now they go to bat for them and then turn right around, go back in the team room, like, all right, man,
Chew you up.
grab your body armor, grab your rucksack, and grab a dirt bike because you're
Yep.
banging gates with that dirt bike, you know.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
but that's fine because I would
Yeah.
rather do that and learn that way than some paperwork or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the paperwork doesn't do anything for me. Like, make me learn.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like, how do you quantify that with like ANS? You know what I mean? Like, how do you quantify that? Because I felt INDOC wasn't perfect either. Yeah, I just felt that if you could make the grad standards, there's nothing else you could do. You could be a total dirtbag, but you could be a physical stud, which you've seen probably CCT guys and everything else.
Yeah,
They're just dirtbags, but they're physical studs. So no matter what, they're going to graduate, and there's no way to stop that from happening. You know.
yeah.
Um, so
Well, yeah. I mean, I think if they had taken INDOC and just added in kind of peer and instructor
yeah. Yep.
evaluations, like 360 feedbacks,
Yep.
I think that may have solved that issue because you're right.
Yeah.
You could be a complete asshole, a complete non team player, but as long as
Yeah.
you were a physical specimen, you could get
Yep.
through.
Yep,
But
you could get through.
yeah,
And that's how it was back then. And then I know that's one thing I do like about ANS is they do peer reviews, you know?
yeah,
But I also wonder too is that also kind of like this whole survivor type of stuff where, you know, is there like clicks and does it truly assess who the group thinks is, you know, is the top, or are they going to play favorites and say, oh, I want to vote him off the island because he's too
yeah.
good, you know? Kind of, I don't know if that ever plays into those peer reviews, you know?
I'm sure I mean, it has to, but right because there's human bias and
Yeah.
I don't think that there is a perfect program where you can alleviate every single
Yeah.
bias or anything like that. So I'm sure there are, you know, I still feel slighted from this guy because he
Yeah.
didn't pick me up a freaking crustable sandwich from the chow hall. So like, screw him. I'm voting him
Yeah.
out. You know, he's not a team player. Like, okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe he's actually
Yeah.
okay. Maybe he just wasn't thinking about it, kind of thing. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I I really liked NDOC. I really
Hmm.
like the program that we're at right now. I think
Hmm.
there are advantages to it, and I think there were advantages to NDOC. And now, you know, maybe, and they don't have a name for it yet, so we'll just call it NDOC 2.0. Maybe NDOC 2.0 will
Hmm.
be even better, you know? So,
Hmm.
you know, and I know, and again, kudos to the cadre that are out there too, because those are the folks that the cadre, the human performance people, you know, the contractors for T3I, the contractors
Yeah.
that are doing development sessions, like everybody has the same goal. They want
Hmm.
what's best for Air Force Special Warfare, PJ, CCT, SR, TACP. They want what's best for us as a community, as an active community.
Hmm.
It's just sometimes people have different opinions or different ways of doing things, and you know that's why we have that. Because
Yeah.
if everybody agreed on one singular way, then we'll definitely have some blind spots. You know?
Oh, percent. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's the perfect system, but um, I feel like the human element of INDOC was what made INDOC. You know what I mean? And what I mean by human element was just the personalities of the instructors. You know, you always have, I mean, I always felt you always have your evil instructors, and then you have your, I don't say nice, but the ones that you knew were more motivating. You know, they used like more positive reinforcement. And
Yeah.
then you have the ones that use nothing but negative reinforcement. You're a piece of you know what and everything
Yeah.
else, and just try to bring you down. But war is ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's nothing pretty about it, right? There's nothing PC about war. So you need to know what it's like, you know, to be in the most lowest emotional point and be like, degraded to the lowest level and be able to handle that. Like not everywhere you're going to go is like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, you
But they had
got this.
like when we went through, they had a good mixture of that. So,
Yeah.
your kind of assholes were your
Yep.
Dave Swans, your,
Yep. Yep.
um, there
Yeah.
are more I can't think of. I'm comfortable calling Dave Swan an asshole because he acted like
Oh
an
yeah.
asshole. Some of the
Oh, he
others,
knows. He knows it.
some of the others were definitely just playing a role.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Kevin Kirby was a super nice guy. So was
Yep.
Kirby Rodriguez, super nice.
Yep.
Um, Doug
Like
McClure
Tony
was,
Alexander, I remember he was fair, but he was scary. Like
yes,
Tony Alexander.
scary. And the
Yes.
person that,
We were all intimidated by it. We were like, oh my God. Like
yeah,
we called
yeah,
him Terminator. He would just look like a Terminator,
yeah,
So
he was. And, and Ron Mann is the one
yep.
that was always, he was never nice, never mean.
Yep.
I don't think he ever raised his voice, but it
No,
was
he
always
didn't.
just a nice, calm, and he was always respectable and always professional. But you knew, one, I never wanted to disappoint him because
Yeah.
I respected him so much. But two is like, what does an angry Ron Mann look like
Yeah, it's true.
as an instructor? Like, oh my God.
We the weight belt swim part was an angry Ron Man, but the funny thing is, like, his emotions stayed even keeled the entire time. You knew he was pissed off, but he was like, "No, gentlemen, this is how," like he just his whole demeanor was the same, but you knew he was angry with us. He was like
Yeah.
disappointed in us because we did some debauchery over that weekend, and now he's punishing us. But um, I mean, we talk about this all the time, how like he was such a great instructor because he treated us as if we were like his sons.
Yeah.
But you knew that fine, like you respected him and everything else, but you're also intimidated by him too, because in a moment's notice he could just, you know, I don't know how he did it, but he did it so well. One thing that I do remember, and I always want to say this quote, and I say this quote all the time, and Anthony Cervantes and I say this quote all the time. We say it to my kids, and it applies to almost everything, right? Is his quote that I remember saying it, and it's still stuck in my head, is like, your talent can only take you as far as your character can sustain, right? So you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the character to back it up, then the talent will only take you so far. And I'll give you like John Jones, the UFC fighter, for example, right? Probably could be and could have been the greatest UFC fighter there is, right? But DUIs, drug use, right?
Yeah.
Marijuana, right? All this other stuff, right? Crashing his vehicle and then running. I mean, just like your talent could take you so much far, but he was hindered by his character, right?
Yep.
And it's like, you see that so much in sports, right? The most talented people, but then their character can't sustain that
Yeah.
talent,
And
And once
Simon Sinek has a little, like, that's what I equate it to. It's like a 2 or 3 minute video where he's talking about trust, because he
Yeah.
does a lot of work with the special operations
Yep.
community and stuff like that. And he talks
Yeah.
about, in this video that has millions of views, he's talking about specifically NSW with trust and trusting your fellow SEAL and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that goes right down to that character is, hey,
Yep.
you can be the most squared away operator possible. But no one wants to work with you because they can't trust you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's
And
a big pain.
and that's
big thing.
yep, and that's one thing that I'd always take for him. He yeah, great motivator. Great instructor. Got a lot from that. Stuff like that. What else happened after that? I mean, there's so many crazy stories with hello.
Yeah, I got you.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many crazy stories, like that weight bill swim story. I'll just go on it real quick. I love telling it. Is he made us do a full on, like a Black Thursday full BDU water concession, and he says, "Get your weight belts on," but he didn't say, "Get your weight belts and fins on." So that's when Bill Posh was like, looked at each other. We're like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, weight belt swim, right, guys? Weight belt swim, weight belt swim. Yes, weight belt swim." So we start putting our fins on, right? And he's like, "Nope, leave your fins there. Ramen was like, nope, leave your fins there. So we did the entire water concession with the weight belt and full BDUs, right? So underwaters, mask and snorkel recovery, everything, buddy breathing, everything with the weight belt, right? So obviously it's just pure failure. When we're doing our little 10-ups, I remember watching, everyone will just sink because we have no fins and we're just on the ground. Yep, just doing this, like, and taking steps, trying to just get to the other side, right? Everyone's coming up, like no one's making anything, right? Everyone's just failing, but you're still trying to make it. And then, of course, within that, oh, you guys didn't make it? All right, here we go. We're going to do extra of these and all that stuff.
Timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was probably the most heinous water concession I've ever seen. And at that time, for some reason, something happened. I busted my ankle and whatever. So they just made me do underwaters on the 130, right? So while all this was going on, I didn't have BDUs on. I just had my T-shirt and my thing, and they just had me do underwaters. So I was constantly just doing underwaters this entire time. They were doing that water concession. So I was watching them do it. So I didn't have to do it with them. But I just kept doing underwaters in the middle of the pool while they're doing all their stuff. And then I ended up doing 28 underwaters on the 130. Because, yes. Because I just kept on going, and I was like, 16, Sergeant, and then blah, blah, blah. And I remember them like, wait, you said, he goes, 28, Sergeant. And I just go on and then kept on going.
Oh, shit, you're still doing these? Okay, come on, bud.
Yeah. And so we had this whole discussion. What was worse, doing 28 underwaters on the 130 or doing our water concession, right? And I was like, I personally would have just kept my 28 underwaters because I was like, man, that weight belts must have sucked. And everyone else is like, man, to hold your breath and do 28 underwaters on 130, like there's no way. Like everyone else was like saying they didn't know what was worse, right? Doing a full water concession with a weight belt, no fins, or doing 28 underwaters on the 130. Yeah, I know. So, so I know, right? So, they maybe eventually joined the group afterwards, but yeah. So, that was one of those sessions where that's an angry Ron man, but no emotion.
No emotion, not a single piece.
Yeah, that was an angry Ron man.
We're at an hour right now, but I did want to ask you one more thing before we kind of go, because, dude, I could sit here and talk to you for another hour, and I know you got to go. I want to talk about service and what that others may live meant to you and how that resonated with you, because you want to talk about, and yeah, we can talk specifically about pararescue, but to all my PJs out there, hey, in reality, like CCT's right there with you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Doing the business. So that saying though resonates with everybody, and I think it means a lot when you are willing to do everything you can to go into someplace knowing the dangers, not knowing the dangers, not knowing how things are going to turn out. And you don't know whether you're going to make it out. You don't know whether the whole reason you're going in there for, whether patients or whether it's getting an ODA team out or whatever it is, you don't know what's going to happen. And it takes something within us to be able to go do that. So what is the kind of that others may live? Like, why does that resonate with you so well?
I honestly was always asking myself this question all the time. Is this something that you learn, or is it something that you're born with, or is it a combination of both, right? Because my personality is still to that day, like where I would, are you willing to give up your life to save another? Or just, I don't know. I like being in those situations where you have to rely on me to save your life, kind of thing. I just like that. And so what it does is that it keeps me on my toes. I want to keep my knife sharp. So in order to do that, you got to be good with your medical skills. You got to keep up with your, with your drugs and all this other stuff, right? And you want to stay yourself sharp, and that's a challenge. But it's like I'm getting close to retirement. I'm doing anesthesia, right? And so I'll just give an example, and it still resonates to now, where I could do just regular anesthesia where someone's just getting a simple surgery and they're healthy. And a lot of people just choose to just do the simple anesthesia cases, the healthy patients, the simple general surgeries or orthopedic surgeries, and then they go home and that's it. But they don't want to do anything crazier, right? I'm recalled to do something crazier And I don't. Some people just hate it. They can't wait till they're done with it. For me, it's like when I hit retirement, I go to start doing anesthesia in real world. I don't think that I could possibly, I'll get too bored. Like, I
Yeah.
need to be in that situation where I'm doing crash C-sections where if I don't react and they don't, if I'm not on my top of my game and transfusing blood and doing this and giving this drug or whatever, not only the baby could die, the mom could die, or both could die, right? Stuff like that. Traumas coming in where gunshot wound to chest, I'm transfusing blood or what, I have to get this line in. I like being in those situations. I don't know. I thrive better in those situations. It When my blood starts pumping, right? That's when I just feel like, hey, I'm in my zone and this is where I want to be. And
Yep.
so, honestly, I don't know, because I've been in plenty of situations where I'm doing anesthesia and all of a sudden you're like, this patient's about to code, and it's just like drawing the epi and doing all this other stuff. And, and so I like my work in anesthesia because I'm kind of constantly in that others may live mode,
Yep.
or whatever it is that others may be better, kind of like whatever I can to make that patient better. Um,
That flow
but
state is huge though. Like that kind
what
of
it,
flow state that you're talking about where it's like,
yeah,
okay, and there's probably a little bit mixture of anxiety, a positive side of
yeah,
anxiety, right?
yeah,
It's like, okay, there's chaos, there's so much riding on a line.
yeah,
I'm comfortable in this. I can be
yep,
in this all day long. And now I'm, all those things you said, pushing blood, pushing drugs, making sure,
yeah,
chest tubes, all that kind of stuff. It's chaos to other people, absolutely chaos, and no way would they want to be a part of that.
yeah.
But it's where we're kind of comfortable.
It's like as a CCT, I'm pretty sure like your heart rate, like me, we're in the 30s and 40s, but we get up to 70, which is normal when you're actually calling in call for fires and dropping bombs and calling the A1C, and target and making targets, and you're getting shot at, and you need to like drop this bomb right on
Yeah.
target. Like that's where you're comfortable at. It's like the same thing with me. It's like like I feel like I'm dying or slowly eating away when I'm just doing this, right?
Yeah.
Versus I need to be in the mission, I need to be there. But honestly, that running into a burning building versus running away from a burning building, I don't know if that's a good question, because it's in me to not run away from a fight, right? The fight or
Yeah.
flight. It's in me to fight. It's in me to run into the burning building and try to save somebody.
Well,
Whether I was a PJ or
it's
not.
tough for us to
Yeah.
answer because we've never experienced that flight. It's always been
Yeah.
fight. It's always
Yeah.
been fight. That's all I know. So
Yeah.
that mentality of I'm gonna walk away from a situation or I'm gonna run away from a burning building, like
Yeah.
I can't even relate to that because I have no
No.
idea.
Yeah. And it's like that quote, for those who understand, no explanation is needed. For those who don't understand, no explanation is possible. Like it's just, I can't explain it, but I feel like that's the quality that you're looking for, and that's, how do you assess that in ANS? How do you assess that and stuff like that, afterwards? But, um, there's like stuff that I've seen you post. If I don't know if I could go through ANS today, like I remember seeing this post of not knowing there's a possibility that I could make it all the way through and not be a PJ, because
Mm.
I want it. Like for me, it's like I have to be a PJ, because I'm all medical. I'm really interested in medical. That's what I'm geared for. So if I made it through and they're like, no, you don't have any PJ slots, you got to be combat control. I don't know if I could do it.
They
And
the
yeah, go
percentage,
ahead.
like I agree with you. The percentage though that don't get a chance to get what they did is
Oh, is it
minuscule.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not like 55% of them don't get what they want. The
Yeah.
majority get what they want. I think it's like a 98% kind of thing. Get
Okay.
exactly 98.7, I think is what they were saying, is gets
Okay.
exactly what they want.
Because I think Trent brought that up one time, and I made a comment on that. I was like, "There's no way," because that was my driving force. Was the whole time we through INDOC was like, "Suck it up. That others may live. Like this is the pain that you need to go through. You're not doing this for you. You're doing it so you can save someone else." And that was my mentality when I was like, when the going was getting tough. My mentality was like, "That others may live. That others may live." Right? I'm not. if I'm going to sacrifice myself for someone else, I better be able to suck it up now, you know. And it's just like
Yep.
that was my mentality going through INDOC, right? And so I was like, I don't know if I could keep that mentality and say, oh yeah, you went through all that mentality. Hey, we only got CCT slot for you. So like, but you're saying it's minuscule, so that's good. I'm glad that I'm glad
it is. And we, you know, we hear from a lot of people too, like their parents or them, and they go, hey, so and so was going in to be, you know, SR or CCT or something like that, and they ended up SR or TACP or vice versa, you know, whatever. And you know, they, in the end, I mean, they don't know now, but they're going to be happy with what they're going, because they're still in the community. They're still doing that stuff. Okay. So SR is not calling in close air support or something like that, or the controller's not doing medicine and they're really passionate about medicine, but in the end, it all washes out.
Real quickly, just to clarify, so it's like I'm actually what's called a nurse anesthetist, right? So basically, you go through nursing school. Then after nursing school, you have to work in the ICU. So I went to UNLV for nursing school, then worked in the trauma ICU at UMC.
Ooh.
Yeah. You know,
there's a lot of work to be done in there.
But you know why I picked that spot? I was like, I wanted to go to the most critical ICU, and that's another thing. Like, it's innate in me, right? I guess it's like when you're where you're at and where I'm at, we don't want something easy, right? No. So where did Tupac go when he was shot up, right, in Vegas, right? What ICU did he go to, right?
The UMC.
Oh, University Medical said, well, that's the ICU I need to work at, right? If they sent Tupac there, that has to be the where I have to work, right? So that's where I wanted to work, and I worked in their trauma ICU, and I saw some crazy stuff, and you know. And then you go to anesthesia school. Now it's 3 years, but it's used to be 2 years. There's a lot of requirements to get in. And then once you do that, you graduate, you get your certificate. And then you do, for me, at least in the military, I do everything an anesthesiologist does, you know, like epidurals, just going to sleep, whatever, because we're independent. On the outside, majority of places are still supervised. So the anesthesiologist supervises the CRNAs. And so the CRNAs are still in the room doing majority of the work, but supervision, meaning like, they'll look at the chart, look at the patient, you know, they'll go over some sort of anesthetic plan. So there's it's like a care team model, you know?
Yeah.
But Air Force specific, they can't deploy me with an anesthesiologist everywhere I go. So, you know, because no anesthesiologist wants to just deploy and then just because they want to supervise a CRNA. So they made CRNAs fully independent in the military, or at least in the Air Force. I don't know if the Army is supervised, but I know for the Air Force and the Navy, we're completely independent. So that's why I'm able to do anesthesia on my own.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in the military, just like, as much as an anesthesiologist does. Same cases, same, same techniques. Everything's the same. So,
so what's next for you then?
I'll probably want to specialize. Maybe, I don't know. Like once I retire, I'm just gonna work out in town somewhere in one of these hospitals. But you know, I have like, you make friends. So I'm already also working private practice. So there's already places in Vegas that I work on my free time, just a couple hours here and there, just to keep up, you know, some of my skills. But I don't know. It depends. As much as I want to take that easy life because I'm retiring, like when Doug asked me like recently, a couple of years, what would you do? I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I could stay out of it too long, because I'm gonna miss the stuff that raises your blood pressure, the stuff that raises your heart rate, because I feel like if I'm not in those situations, then I'm not gonna be sharp, and I'm so afraid of dulling, if that makes sense. Hello?
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm so afraid of dulling that I want to stay sharp, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what drives me, because I still have that, you know, operator mentality that you never want to be dull, you know?
Yeah.
But problem is physically, my body can't keep up with that mentality. So I got to tone it down in the gym a little bit.
I'm with it. Well, it doesn't look like you jacked right now.
Shoulders and everything else. Yeah, it's just, you got to tone it down a little bit, you know. But that's the reason why you do Spartan races, you know. It's kind of like, this way to challenge yourself, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah, with all these injuries, it's kind of like, you know, you gotta bring it down a little bit, not physically, you know.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great.
But yeah.
Well, dude,
hopefully,
I really appreciate it, man. This has been a fantastic talk. I'm glad you set it up and Aaron set it up. So I wish they could have made it, but man, it's great catching up with you.
I know. I mean, there's so many other things I could have talked about, but
No,
anyone interested,
we really
yeah,
went on a tangent.
yeah, no, we did. But anyone that's interested in trying to like, do, operator life after being an operator, medical side, whatever. There's so many routes that you could do because once you've done what you've done and we've done, it sets you up. You just have a mentality where you feel like you can't fail, you can't quit. So then you set your mind to doing something else, whether it's med school, whether it's nursing school, whether it's PA school. You're just like, I've been through Hell Week, I've been through ANS, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what challenge can you bring me? Like bring it up, like you're kind of like bring it on. And there's nothing you can't tackle once you've made it, I feel like that's the biggest thing that I've taken out of it is that it's given me so much of a mentality of things. Life isn't that bad.
Yeah. No,
like
I'm with you.
It could be always worse. That what you're talking about, it could always be worse. Doing the fin swim thing and swimming back, it could always be worse, right?
I can breathe and I'm not getting shot at.
Yeah.
Things aren't too bad.
Yeah, things aren't too bad. Nothing is tougher than that. So honestly, it's like, hey, this can't, like I always refer back to that with stress or anything else I'm doing, and also too, it's a mentality of, well, keep studying then, or keep doing what I need to be doing, or whatever it is that your next niche is, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or business or med school or whatever, you just know that you could do it because you've been through some of the toughest hell,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, it was good talking to you. I wish I could talk to you some more. We could talk all day.
Yeah, man. We'll link up again. We'll get you scheduled, knowing that you're in Korea and stuff like that. So, I'm sure you have just loads of time.
Well, yeah, I'm always on calls, so that's the only sad thing. So
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back in Vegas in what, less than 90 days. So less than 80 days. Yep. I'll be back towards the end of August, beginning of September. So
all right. Well, don't hang up yet. Everybody out there, don't forget to like, subscribe. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you later.